Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our national and international attendees and our panelists. My name is Dr. Grishma Shah, and I'm the co-convener of National Ability Summit. Professionally, I'm an entertainment psychologist and an artist, and I'm currently living in Chicago. I work to make Hollywood and Bollywood more inclusive. I have wheatish skin and very big eyes, at least I think so. My hair is in a bun, and I'm wearing a black blazer over a yellow dress. And welcome panelists to this session on entertainment for all and by all. From stars to staging to storytelling, so many things need to come together so that audiences around the world can be entertained. But rarely is entertainment inclusive. And the National Ability Summit, we believe that entertainment should be for all and by all. This means considering people with disabilities behind the camera as crew members, in front of the camera as cast, and as audience members excited to see your projects come to life. Last year for the National Ability Summit, we spoke about film and its impact on audiences. And we realized that entertainment is a tree with many branches, and each branch can be inclusive with the right frameworks, which is why I'm so delighted to share with you our amazing moderator for today, Keely Catwells. Keely has been named a top 20 changemaker. She's an entrepreneur and disability advocate, activist that is dedicated to making social, systemic, and economic change. Most recently, Keely was listed in the Marie Claire as a person that you should be following on Instagram, so make sure you do. Keely also sits on the Deaf and Disabled Committee at Equity UK and the British Film Institute's Disability Advisory Council. She's the CEO of C Talent, Zeta Finance, and Zeta Studios. Zeta Studios is set to be the world's first ever studio to be fully accessible for people with disabilities. Hi, Keely.
Hello, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. So I'm Keely, and I am a Caucasian woman with long, blonde, wavy-ish hair. I am wearing a green blazer, and I'm wearing large, square, kind of gold-rimmed glasses, and my background is blurred. So as mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of C Talent, and I became disabled when I was 17 years old. When I moved to LA, I lost a job, not because of my disability, but because of Hollywood's ableism. And ableism is the discrimination against disabled people. And that's why I founded C Talent, with the goal of increasing employment of disabled people and to target the lack of accessibility in the industry and beyond, and create superstars who just so happen to be disabled, as well as helping companies become inclusive beyond compliance. So today I'm so excited to be speaking with Lachi and Nick, who I have the pleasure of knowing personally and have been able to collaborate with as well. So Lachi, would you be able to go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Hi, my name is Lachi, she, her, black girl, cornrows. I'm also wearing a Gibson sweatshirt. My background is blurred. And then my cornrows are super nice. I have golden nails, golden earrings, and I am just generally happy to be here. So you're gonna hear the smile in my words. I am a recording artist, songwriter, and disability inclusion advocate, like my friends Nick and Keely here. I work in the I work in the EDM music realm. I'm also co-chair of the Recording Academy Advocacy Committee in New York for Grammy advocacy. I am also the founder of RAMPed, Recording Artists and Music Professionals with Disabilities, a coalition of said recording artists, music professionals, engineers and producers and songwriters and composers who identify as deaf, disabled, have a rare disease, have neurodiversity, who are making waves in the music industry to be a body and a voice for that group. So I'm really excited to be here and get into the nitty gritty.
Amazing. Thank you, Nick. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes. Hello, I am Nick Novicki. I am a little person wearing a black suit, black tie, you know, because this is a big deal, international, you got to dress up. I have short hair. I'm Caucasian with a little bit of scruff. I'm an actor, writer, comedian, and producer. I've been very lucky in that I've been able to tour all over the world. I've been in 40 TV shows and movies, gotten the chance to work with Martin Scorsese, the Farley brothers, but the majority of my work has been self-driven, me writing, producing, creating my own content. So 9 years ago, I was looking around, I was like, why aren't more people with disabilities creating their own content? So I created the Disability Film Challenge, which is a film competition where you need to have somebody with a disability in front of or behind the camera. It's grown year after year. I partnered with Easterseals, the largest disability services organization in the US, and they're international as well, in 2017. And to date, we've had hundreds of films, countless of success stories, and ultimately it's people with disabilities creating their own film, taking their career in their own hands. And it's been such an honor to have both of you part of the Film Challenge and to be able to work with you beyond.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This is Keely speaking. So the first topic I wanted to touch on was disclosure. In my introduction, I did disclose being disabled, and this has taken me a while to feel comfortable with, and it's now a personal preference. For me, I feel like if I don't disclose, then I don't get the tools that I need. So I'm wondering, Lachi, your thoughts on disclosure and your experience in the entertainment industry and the topic of disclosure.
Yeah, so I actually failed to mention that I am legally blind. It's just so natural to me that it's just part of who I am. So I did fail to mention it. Interestingly enough, I am non-blind passing at times. So this question of disclosure is a pretty intimate question for me. I had quite the journey of eventually disclosing my disability, and it's the reason I actually disclosed was because not disclosing was shooting me in the foot, like you mentioned, Keely. So being in the recording industry, it's an interesting situation because I started finding myself in these bigger rooms, working with these bigger names, working with the Snoop Dogs and the Styles P's and the Marcus Schultzes, and being supported by the Armin van Buurens of the world, and having releases on Sony and Universal. And so I'm in these rooms and I have to come correct. So I can't be tripping over different wires that I can't see, or not knowing how to get into the booth. And those things were happening to me because I wasn't allowing people the opportunity to help me figure out how to get places. And I had this thing in my heart that said, oh, if you disclose, people will think maybe you're not competitive. People may not want to work with you, or worse yet, people will feel sorry for you, which is just not in Lachi's lexicon. But actually, when I disclosed, when I finally came out and decided, you know what, instead of being a wallflower at these networking events and at these carpets and wondering why I'm not walking out with the deals that my friends are walking out with, let me stop being a wallflower and just say, hi, my name is Lachi. I'm blind. Now what? And it just really opened up my life. It allowed me to not be afraid to go up and talk to people, because it's an awesome icebreaker. Like, how did you get here? How do you do your knobs in the studio? But it also allowed me to get the help I needed, to be able to get the tools I needed, and to advocate for myself adequately and accurately, and to recognize that asking for services, asking for help is actually a strength, because I'm giving myself the leg up I need to start giving myself that equity that I need to actually compete. So I am now really proud to say, hey, hi, I'm blind, I'm Black, I'm female. These are all just parts of me. And now that I'm so confident with who I am, it's infectious and people want to be around it instead of trying to avoid me because of it. And so I think claiming it, owning it, making it part of your narrative, and not being afraid to allow other people into the space with you is super duper truly important, and has really actually skyrocketed my success.
I love the way you put that. I love that. So awesome. Nick, during your incredible journey with the film challenge, what have you noticed when it's come to disclosure? I mean, disability is literally a qualifying factor. So I'd love your
Yeah.
take on the subject.
Well, it's interesting too, as I'm listening to both of you talk, Lachi and Keely, we're in different scenarios. You have to disclose your disability in some senses for people to know. It's going to come up. The more people know you, the more you're in situations. But for me, I'm 3'10". So disclosing is not something I've ever had to worry about. I've always been, hey, what's up? You're 3'10". So, and I think that that's been a part of my identity. I've learned to embrace that, to grow up in the East Coast where people, don't really keep to themselves what they're thinking. Everything's out loud, kids, adults. Hey, what's going on? Are you a man? Are you, I'm like, yeah, what's up? How are you? I'm Nick. I'm a little person. I have pseudoachondroplasia dwarfism. So, I have so much pride in my height, and in the community that it's brought me connected to throughout my life. And so really when I was coming up with the disability film challenge, the big thing for me was saying, look, we got to say the word disability. There's pride in it, and 9 years ago, there wasn't as much pride as there is now, but I saw it coming. I saw all their marginalized communities embracing their identity, their culture. And I was like, we need to say the word disability, and you have to have somebody with a disability in front of or behind the camera. And the amount of people that have taken part in the film challenge and let me know after that, they've actually opened up about their disability for the first time publicly through the film challenge, and the amount of pride that they had, and just the relief, and the fact that that opened up other doors. Because I think really a big factor in why people haven't disclosed before is there's a fear. Am I going to get hired? Are people going to, think that I'm not qualified? When in reality, we've seen the opposite. We've seen studios, we've seen professionals. They're like, look, we need more diversity within our projects. There's 61 million Americans, roughly 1 in 4 that have some form of disability. And those statistics, they transfer worldwide, and so this is a huge demographic. And beyond that, we're storytellers as filmmakers, as musicians, as artists. We want to tell a different story. And so if you have something different to tell, that's bringing value. So, I'm firmly all about disclose your disability, say the word. Lawrence Carter Long came up with that a campaign that said, say the word for disability. And I think there's just so much pride within us. And the more pride we have, the more opportunities that we're going to get collectively.
And we have a flag. Disability has a flag. It was only recently that I learned that disability actually has a flag, and it's a really awesome flag too. So everyone should go and Google the disability pride flag for sure. It's so true what you say.
It makes us sound like we're pirates. We got a flag. We're gonna take over your boat.
Oh yeah. But it's so true what you say. In a world where everyone is so similar, what a joy it is to be different. I mean, I love that. So I feel like in the industry, companies are slowly but surely getting it. The film industry is slowly but surely catching on that this isn't just the right thing to do, but it's the smart thing to do as well. But I feel like sometimes they may get it wrong, and we see tokenism. So how do we get past that tokenistic representation, and how can we get to that systemic change and just have disability a part of the culture and a part of the way that we do things?
Who's taking this one? You want me to go do it?
I'm happy to jump in.
Go for it, Nick.
I think for me, really the way to change that is by us being a part of the narrative. People with disabilities creating our own films, creating our own projects. You can't tokenize yourself unless you choose to. So it's the more that we have access to be able to take agency and control what we're doing, our destiny, whether that's writing songs, writing, music side for Lachi, and who is an amazing artist, which shout out to you for the great music you did for the film challenge film last year, and just all the amazing music you do in general. But I mean, that's you taking your career in your own hands. And then, you know, however it's perceived with the tokenism that's a PR problem. But in terms of, you know, the tokenism, that's you doing it. And I think for me, I mean, that was the reason why I started creating. I'm 3'10", and I was lucky enough early in my career to get on The Sopranos, which is the biggest TV show in the world at the time. But then right after that, it was like no auditions at all, couple elf auditions, couple things like that, you know, I wasn't playing the kind of roles that I wanted to play. So I was like, I got to create this myself. And so I feel like, you know, the more we can do ourselves, then the more we're just undeniable. And those kind of barriers of tokenism and some of those areas aren't as meaningful, because frankly, you know, then they're coming to you like, hey, we want to invest in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally second that. I agree. Once we're the storytellers, once we're creating the stories, our own stories, then it takes away that stigma that it was created by a society that just doesn't understand disability. And if we tell the stories ourselves from a place of understanding, from a place of experience, lived experience, from the side of the tale that the broader society hasn't seen and doesn't know, then we start to smash that stigma. And the more we smash the stigma, the more folks are exposed to our stories told by us, then the more people are just comfortable, knowledgeable. Really, when we have these fears, it's just a lack of understanding. It's a lack of not knowing what to do, how to approach, how to ask the question, what do I say? And I continue to find myself in rooms where people are trying to figure out how to even ask questions, how to approach things. Is it okay if I do this? What if I? And you start to see less of that the more folks are exposed. And that's what's happening. Authentic representation, authentic storytelling. That's the direction we need to go. And that's where we're slowly but surely going, especially with things like the Disability Film Challenge. You know, to be able to have hundreds upon hundreds of stories told authentically, starring folks authentically representing their disabilities. I mean, that's the number one place that these stories really start. But it's not just that. It's not just the exposure to Hollywood or the exposure to folks that don't know disability. It's really exposure for people with disabilities to start standing in front of their stories and telling them, to start being empowered to tell their stories, to stop being afraid to tell their truths. And the more we get these stories out there, the more stories we will be able to get out there, because more folks will be able to step up and say, heck, I want to do that too.
Absolutely. And so well put. I feel like there's two types of stories that we want to see more, two types of representation that we want to see more, is both the stories celebrating our culture and things about our history and disability history. And then we also want to see the incidental stories where it may have nothing to do with disability, but you still got a disabled person in the lead, in the starring role. I feel like those two situations are so important to get included. So in terms of, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I wanted to second what you said, you know, because I, you know, for the film challenge, we actually encourage people. We say that the films don't have to be about disability at all. In fact, many of the judges prefer you to not have disability part of the storyline at all. You know, so that's what's been so cool. It's like, you know, wheelchair bank robbers and Down syndrome love stories and all these things, you know, and I think that's, again, for me in my professional career and creating for myself, I remember being on a TV show, and so much of the episode was like about me, you know, reaching a light switch or all these other things where I'm like, that is not part of my life, where I'm like, you know, I do have to stand on things, and, you know, there are accessibility things, but my wife and I never focus on that, you know? And so it's like, I think the more that writers are around us, you know, back to what Lachi said before, is about like, the more people were around her, then it just became like a second nature, you know? And I think I think when we're able to get together too in social settings with producers and writers, and you're at these, Forbes Summit and all these things, that then it becomes natural. It's like you just start forgetting about, certain sides of the disability. And I think it's important not to say, oh, I don't see your disability, because I think it's important for our disability to exist, but it not to be the main factor and the main thing that's like everything. It's still about you being a good musician, you being a good entrepreneur, leader, me hopefully being funny, or, if not.
Exactly. Like, disability is not the most interesting thing about us. I think that's what these big studios in Hollywood's got to realize. And I feel like that shift will happen when we've got the behind the camera representation as well. So I would love your thoughts on, where are we with behind the camera representation? What's happening? How's it going? Like, is it happening?
Keely, can you repeat that thing you just said? Apparently my doorbell just rang. So just repeat that.
Absolutely. I was wanting to chat about behind the camera representation. And I think this kind of monumental shift that we've kind of all been working for and waiting for so long will really happen when we've changed up those pipelines. And when there's this behind the camera representation, that's when it will become, hopefully, that big shift. So I'm wondering your thoughts, if you're seeing that happen, and your experience with that.
One of the things that I really enjoy about sort of my new out life is having a disability forward team. And so, as Keely knows, and as I shout to the heavens all the time, generally everyone on my team has some form of disability, deafness, or neurodiversity. And the machine has been so well oiled because we're all so, well, apart from the fact that folks with disabilities have incredible problem solving skills and outside the box thinking skills, because that's just how we do in life, we're all going towards this purpose of elevating disability culture as the culture that it is. That's why I'm really excited that Nick mentioned the word culture, because disability does have its own culture. And to bring folks on behind the scenes that bring that lived experience and bring that option C when there's option A and option B and no other option in sight. Folks with disabilities bring that option C. And, it's been proven in study after study after study that if you hire folks with disabilities, or at least have them as part of your talent push when you're looking for folks to hire, you just do better. Studios that do that, production houses that do that, even corporate America, when they take that into account, they just do much better. So like, let's say, for instance, when we did our PBS special, our PBS segment on Renegades, I was so happy to find that the majority of the background crew was either literally blind or deaf, women led as well. And I felt so comfortable. I felt so accommodated. Everything was, for the most part, pretty universally built in to make sure that everybody could work well. And anyone who was non-disabled got to benefit from that. And so we can get into universal design. It's just everybody wins when disability is really kind of at the forefront of putting things together. So I'm definitely a proponent for that. Okay, I'm obviously like at a loss for words because I get like kind of emotional about this point, but it just makes everything so much better when you design things with inclusivity in mind on the onset. It turns out it doesn't just help people with disabilities, it makes the experience a million times better for non-disabled people as well. And I just want to take a quick tangent real quick about that point. So recently, I teamed up, us at Ramped, we teamed up with this organization called the Wavies, and they put on an award show here in New York where they highlight artists with LGBTQ, with women, minorities that identify with a disability. They highlight them, they showcase their music, they have them perform, they give out awards, and it's put on by the mayor's office in New York City. And they came to RAMP and said, hey, help us make sure that we're accessible. And so we were very honored. Of course, we made sure that the stage was accessible, that there was ASL, who actually the ASL guy was the star of the show, Brandon Maddox. But one of the things that we threw in was, hey, whenever you speak, whenever you go up to present, introduce what you look like, self-describe. And people were feeling weird about it, like, oh, I don't know if I want to self-describe, that's weird. And so we said, just do it, everybody, just figure it out. I knew a bunch of blind people were coming to the show. So we did it. The entire night was all about self-describe. And believe me when I tell you, it made the night immensely beautiful. So it being a night highlighting people with, different gender identities and whatnot, people started coming to the stage. Instead of being like, hi, I am a Black woman with cornrows and a Gibson shirt. It's like people were coming to the stage going, I am an Amazon at 6 feet tall, a beautiful Black woman, and I'm wearing and it was just so amazing. Everyone ended up in tears by the end of the night, best friends in the audience. And it was just the most amazing, beautiful show that I was ever a part of. And so I'm just all about advocating for making it inclusive to all, and that actually being beneficial for the non-disabled participants.
That's pretty awesome. And if I can, I want to touch on something that you talked about in terms of the value that we bring as a community. I always say, like, as a little person, look, I was born an entrepreneur, because the fact is, when I have to wash my hands in a public restroom, I need to figure out how to turn the trash can over, step on that. I create my own stool, so it's like my own business in a public restroom, and ultimately, though, that ends up being of value. So if you're in a company, especially in the entertainment industry, where things change on a daily basis, there's a new script, there's a new location, there's a new actor, there's a new city we need to be in. You need people that are going to be able to roll with that and be able to act on the spot. And so I think the disability community as a whole, we bring so much value in the fact that for our whole lives, many of us have learned how to do our jobs, but also, make sure that we're able to do it through accessibility, the way that we work best, and highlighting that. So I think that brings so much value. And in terms of the question about, what's the representation like behind the camera? Honestly, it's we need more. I'm very proud that we have a database of people that work behind the camera, from the Film Challenge, talented artists like Lachi or composers. We have a lot of great writers and, editors and camera people and directors, but there are a lot of jobs. There's a lot of jobs working from a production coordinator, or a lot of opportunities where you don't need to be physically able to carry, a 100-pound light, which, some of us, that's probably not our best job. I mean, some people with disabilities, we may have, we have to, there's so many different disabilities, and that's something else that's very important to highlight. When you say the word disability, it's not just somebody in a wheelchair, it's not just a little person or somebody with CP. There's so many invisible disabilities. And, and so I think that, again, as we're able to be more open and really embrace us as a community in the pride in what we have, then, we get rid of the stigma around the word, and so we see that actually more people are coming out and saying, hey, you know what, actually, I do have a disability. So now there are other crew members that we don't even know that have disabilities. And I've seen that. I've seen this happen through the Film Challenge, where we have people nominated as an editor, and then we find out they have a disability because, it's just, you don't have to say that. If you're an editor, you don't need to come forward and say, I have a disability, not just with the Film Challenge in general. You're working, remotely, people don't see you. They don't know you're in a wheelchair or that you're on the autism spectrum, or, so I think that there's more and more opportunities. And I think that that's something, we're doing a lot of workshops and seminars where, we're teaching skills, and that's something that's important. And I want to do more of that. But I feel like that there is a pipeline there. So if you're listening, you're tuning in, well, we can't get somebody with a disability. That's not true. You can. So put it out there, and when there's a job and it's paying, believe me, we will come and we'll get that job. We'll bring the talent in. But you know, there's still room for growth, and I think, you know, there is, frankly, in front of the camera too.
Absolutely. Oh, the amount of times I've heard that, like, oh, you know, we wanted to hire someone disabled, but we just couldn't
But
find
we
anyone.
couldn't find
Like,
one.
no, there
Really?
is no excuse. We are literally, I think, Crutches Inspire Samani Barbara, and someone we represent, quotes, she said, I think on social media, she goes, close your eyes and point. Like, we are everywhere. And so I love that. But
I have to interrupt for 1 second. I just got to say, Nick, you said that when you're in the restroom, you create your own stool and do your business. So I just wanted to let you know that you said that.
Yeah, you know,
I'm like, I create my own stool and I do my business too.
Hey, I meant to wash my hands, but you know.
Okay, I'm glad you wash your hands after creating stool. That's good.
I just, you know what, I want to, you know, who knows? Eventually, we're coming out of the coronavirus. Somebody's gonna want to shake my hands. I want to let them know, hey, I wash my hands no matter what. All right.
All right. I really took this the wrong direction. I apologize. Go ahead.
I mean, but based off that, and it's so often forgotten, disability, accessibility, it creates innovation, it sparks innovation. And I think that so oftentimes gets forgotten. I mean, something I learned as well, that, you know, text messaging and, you know, SMS messaging came from the deaf community. Potato peelers wouldn't exist without people who have arthritis. And it's so often forgotten. I think accessibility is often seen as something that, oh, it's going to be so expensive, which is such a big myth. And, oh, it's going to, you know, just get in the way. But Lachi, as you said, it benefits everyone. Universal design is just the fundamental condition of good design. So you both are performers and you do amazing work. And I'm just interested to hear, going to put you on the spot a little bit. If you could create your own, well, you are creating your own jobs, your own work, but if you could be cast in some big, huge studio movie, what would that role be? What would that be to you?
Nick, let me give myself like let me give myself 5 minutes to think.
Well, I mean, you know, sometimes it's hard to kind of, you know, sit back and just kind of appreciate things that you've already had the opportunities to do. But in reality, it's like, I've been in the entertainment industry for 20 years. And so I've already gotten the chance to work with so many great people. And also on the, you know, studio and you know, TV side, but also in on the indie side, with so many artists that, you know, are like-minded, that see my vision, that understand the kind of projects I want to do and that we could do together. But in terms of a studio kind of project, I love my gangster movies. So I'd like to be in some more, you know, keep that Boardwalk Empire train going, you know, and maybe work with Scorsese again. In my ultimate, you know, I wrote a script about Billy Barty, who was the founder of Little People of America. He founded that in 1957, and he was a vaudevillian, you know, actor and advocate, and he was in the entertainment industry for 73 years, from 3 till he died. And so that's my dream, you know, role, to play Billy Barty.
Wow.
Oh, wow, that's nice. That's really dope too, that, like, you know, I like how you mentioned, you know, at the end of the day, being a successful person with a disability, you had to really fight, right, to get everything that you have now. And so you make sure along the way, while you're fighting, that you do all the things you want to do. And if you are, you know, the type of person who fights, you make sure you get into the rooms you want to get into, and you work and you work and you work. And so I can definitely relate to that. Like, I do remember, so I just came out of a camp songwriting with Alicia Keys. And I remember when I was younger going, if I ever meet Alicia Keys, that means I made it. And so just yesterday, I came out of a camp writing with her. So I'm like, I guess I made it. I guess this is me making it. You know, and to be right. So, and to be able, and then like the other day, I had a call with the White House Office of Public Engagement, just talking to me about being blind and doing art. And I remember after that call, or after that sort of interview, I call my mom up and I go, "Hey mom, I just spoke to the White House about being blind." And she was like, "I guess it's over. I guess you did it. You win at life. Like, what do you do now?" And so these opportunities do come when you say, "Hey, this is me. I am the thing um, that you're looking for. Like, there is no other me out there. So I am selling who I am. And if you want this, take it." And I think that my dream project, which Keely already knows, because Keely knows everything I'm working on, is that, you know, I have two actually. Um, I've always been a huge Sex and the City fan. I didn't watch it while it was on. I watched it after. And I always really loved just the idea. I mean, I'm from New York, just the idea of, sexy, 30, 20s and 30 somethings, just living life and being creatives and just dealing with the woes and toes of New York. And I thought that it would be so amazing to have a show like that for women who are blind. Just sexy women who are blind going out doing their thing, because I figure I'm a sexy woman who's blind and I know all of my friends are. Why don't we have a show that we can point out and go, wow, that's me on the screen? So I would love to see something like that, whether it's scripted or unscripted. And then the other thing I would absolutely love, 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 love to see or to do, or actually that I'm working on, is really music out there that embraces disability in a competitive way. So my music that I create is EDM and sort of pop dance vocals. So very radio friendly, very top 40 friendly music. But I want to see it focusing on disability issues. I want to see it me talking about how I use a cane and not being afraid to put that somewhere in a rap somewhere. Like, we have different minorities talking about how they came up from the hood or how they came up from their different country. We have people with talking about, their gender identity. That's blowing up right now with folks talking about, hey, I identify in a certain way, but I still love. And that's really being embraced. I'm ready to take it to that next level and embrace disability in that way in the music scene. And I'm encouraging my folks at Ramped to do the same, recording artists, music professionals with disability. If you're a musician listening to this right now, come join us, because that's really what I want to see. I want to see more artists singing and rapping and creating about their true identity, and that being embraced by major society. That's what I want to see.
I love that. Love that. And yes, we are working towards it. We're going to make it happen for sure. I often think about things that I wish I had known before I entered into this business, and just, I mean, entrepreneurship as a whole, and especially being a disabled entrepreneur and navigating just the discrepancies with funding and the lack of people who get it, and people who say, oh, you should just be a charity. And I just wish that I could have told me a few years ago some advice. So I'm wondering, what would you tell yourself or other disabled creators and disabled entrepreneurs and just disabled people in this industry as they're starting out, and people who look up to you guys?
What would I tell my past self? Well, several things I wish I'd known before I really cracked into the industry. And one of them is, it's okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was okay. Like, just life. It's okay. I didn't know that. I didn't have anyone to point to put on my vision board to say, I want to be that. I didn't know how to advocate for myself. I didn't know I was allowed to. I didn't know that I could be proud of my disability. I didn't know I was allowed to. I didn't know that I could stand in front of my disability. I didn't know I could advocate for disability. I didn't know that it was okay to just even talk about it with friends, with family. I didn't have any community. And funnily enough, just earlier this year, maybe like a couple of months ago, I found myself on one of those audio only apps, and in a room with people with disabilities, all meeting for the first time. I mean, hundreds kept saying, this is the first time I've ever spoken to other people with disabilities. And this is 2021. These people are in their 20s and 30s and are meeting other people with disabilities for the first time. And so I just didn't know that it was okay. I didn't know that it was okay for me to be myself. And I really want this next generation to know it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be proud of yourself. There's nothing wrong with the word pride. Um, some people take it too far, but don't let people squelch your light because they don't know how to deal with their own pride. Be proud of the things you create. It's okay. Be proud of who you are. It's okay. Talk about it. And also, like Nick pointed out, saying the word disability is fine. The water's fine. The weather's fine over here. You can say it. There's nothing wrong with the prefix dis. This is what I tell people all the time. I'm distinct. I'm distinguished. I like me a good discount. There's some good words that start with dis. It's okay to say the word disability. You don't need to just focus on the ability part. Disability is an identity. Once you take the dis out, then you're taking away the identity of the word. It's like saying just American instead of African American. No, I'm not going to take away the fact that I have the African part in American. It's like taking the man, just saying man instead of woman. I am a woman. It's a whole identity. So be okay with saying the full word disability, because why are we hiding behind it? Why are we trying to euphemize it? There's nothing wrong with disability that you need to euphemize. And that's the kind of stuff I wish I told my younger self. That's the kind of stuff I wish I knew, because I would be have been this happy then.
I mean, that's pretty awesome. That's tough to follow.
Mic drop.
I love that. I always say, do what others don't. I feel like going beyond the call of duty is always a good way to get there, in a little bit of a more timely manner, and it keeps things exciting. And then last question for you, what would you say to those allies out there watching who want to be more inclusive, who have enjoyed this conversation, go, oh my gosh, I'm missing out on this huge, incredible community, and what's the first step I should take?
Well, I think one, for me, it's call us in to audition, call us in to, read our materials, bring us into the room. Also embed yourself into our community. What's so cool is our, Film Challenge Awards. We do screenings at film festivals around the country. So often it's not just the actual films, it's the network and the exposure towards those producers or those network executives when they're there and they're hanging out in the lobby and they're getting a drink together. And then all of a sudden now they're like, ooh, this could be a really good idea for an episode. And it could be about Lachi, and Lachi's, she, the way she does this, and she got out of this camp, and, she's with Lauryn Hill, and Alicia Keys comes in, and then boom, so I think it's the more that you're able to expose yourself to us, then you're gonna be able to not have the story or the opportunity be focused around the disability, but it's just going to be around us as artists. And I would also say to really watch our work, and also to pay us, bring us in to talk, to consult, to make sure to not just ask for kind of free consultation. I think it's important to invest in the community as well. And I think whether that's hiring us for your projects, or whether that's putting money towards development for future projects or professional development, so that we're ready for that next job. But investing in us is also something that can be done. And if you don't have the ability to invest, I would say make sure to share us, share our films or content. Follow us on Twitter. The disability Twitter is blowing up. I know that's happening, and there's a lot of different areas that people are out there getting the word out about us as a community. And also follow us online at Disability Film Challenge. See what we're up to, and we're happy to share our films, and follow our feeds and find other people with disabilities and the awesome stuff they're doing.
Yes, absolutely. I love that though. Seek out disabled talent. Like invest in so many different ways. You
Yeah.
don't have to just invest with money. You can invest with social media currency, and so true.
Yeah, there are other ways to invest, and I agree. I mean, I think in some senses, giving money, just straight money, writing the check is amazing. But when you can invest beyond that and have people put their name behind something, really, come on as producers if they're a big entity, or bring us in, for auditions and advice and mentorship. I mean, that's sometimes more valuable and beyond that social media support.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Those connections are just priceless for sure.
they are. And I want to jump into on this, what can allies do? How can allies get more involved? I agree with Nick 100%. Intentionality on exposure. Want to expose yourself to this new and different life experience that you are not super familiar with. It's, Nick mentioned earlier that he loves to travel. So many people love to travel and check out different cultures. Well, disability is a culture. Travel to us and come learn about us, expose yourself to us with intention. And that's really the best thing you can do, because the more you see us, the more you hear us, the more you understand our stories, the easier it is for you to just be a part of what we're doing. But that's not just for allies, that's also for my fellow disabled folks. Expose yourself to what disability is. Know more about your culture, know more about your history as a disabled person. Disability is super duper diverse. So you can learn about disability on the whole, or a specific sect to start off your journey and understand more about the diversity within disability. But I just say, like, learn more, be intentional. Don't be afraid to ask, because you are going to get zero answers from the questions you don't ask. So the moment you come over, ask us what we want, ask us who we are, and actively listen to what we say when we respond. And I think the one last thing I want to make sure I hit on before I shamelessly self-promote my organization is, I think that folks need to really understand that we're not just inspirations. We're not just something you can say, oh, wow, so beautiful that you got out of your bed and you're walking across the street. How bold of you, how brave. You're not witnessing someone being bold or brave. You're not witnessing an inspiration. You're witnessing social discrimination. So if you see me crossing the street with my cane and avoiding traffic, instead of thinking to yourself, wow, it's so amazing that she's crossing the street, why don't you think, heck, I should call my city planning people and figure out how to get sonic additives to the traffic lights. If you see someone in a wheelchair struggling to get on stage for a performance, instead of saying, oh my God, I can't believe they made it, why don't you say, wow, I should probably write to this venue to have an accessible stage. So those are what allyship is. Allyship isn't saying, oh, wow, well, at least I'm not dogging disability. Allyship is thinking, well, what can I do? What can I do to help? I don't want the disability movement to need a George Floyd before people start paying attention. That's what allyship is. Allyship is paying attention. And we're nice. The water's good over here. Come hang out with us and pay us. So shameless plug, check out ramped.org, recording artists and music professionals with disabilities. We are really doing big things. We're hooked in with the Grammys and the Recording Academy, making big moves happen. We're hooked in with the National Independent Venue Association, trying to help push and lobby for things for more accessibility at stages. We're hooked in with a lot of folks, and we're trying to get opportunities for musicians to really start getting our name and our foot out there and bringing the culture to that next level. And you're also free to not only check myself out, obviously I'm Lachi, you can find me anywhere and check out my music, But head over to the Ramped socials at Ramped Up and check out any of the musicians on there. Add them to your Spotify playlist, add them to your Apple playlist if you like them. And tell your friends, hey, I just heard this new amazing artist. You should check them out too. That's how you can get
Thank
help.
you so much. That was amazing. So to wrap up, I mean, some key takeaways: just invest in disabled-led projects, artists and companies, intentionally learn about disability. And it's so important to support disabled creators, disabled-led work, and seek it out. Don't just wait, seek it out, and recognize and celebrate disability pride. Be proud of your own work. If you are, disabled, keep going and be in that community. Find other people in the disabled community and chat with them. I mean, that helps. And have authenticity in everything that you do. And don't take the diss out of disability.
Yes.
And then finally, follow and support the amazing Nick and Lachi and all the incredible work they're doing.
Thank you so much, Keely. You are such an amazing moderator and such wonderful panelists as well. I actually have a question for Keely. I'm going to flip the script. Are you ready, Keely?
No, sure.
So my question is, what are some ways Zeta Studios has been intentional in adding accessibility and disability culture?
So we are still in the process of building. We've not opened yet. It's a big picture project with kind of lots of different components. But in preparation for that, in preparation for the build, we've actually been consulting on other studios in the UK and helping them incorporate universal design. And we have a very holistic approach to this. So rather than using technology or other different kind of accessibility tools, we have a huge group of disabled people with varying different disabilities. And we have a very human approach. So we will really go through those physical spaces and make it, I don't think you can ever make a space completely fully accessible because everyone has very different access requirements, but it's really going through and making sure that everything is at its best, of what we can possibly do, which is to be open to everyone. So that's what we've been currently doing with the studio.
And that's amazing. I do have a confession to make. I actually didn't describe my own identity in terms of disability. I'm an amputee. I'm a 3-time cancer survivor, and I always grapple with the idea of, well, if I share this, especially in my South Asian community, people will see me as other or less than, which has been usually the case. But even with my PhD and being an entertainment psychologist and an artist, I always feel like it may not be enough because my disability, they will perceive it as something less. And now with this panel, I feel like I don't want to take the diss out. So thank you so much for helping me come to accept myself. And I'm so proud to be part of this community. And Nick, Riza says hello. She's a very good friend of mine. So I sent her a picture of your panel.
Send us a photo too. We'll share it out.
Yeah, so thank you very much.